PRB02 for the One Piece trading card game is releasing later this week. A set completely comprised of reprints of insanely good, or mostly insanely good cards within the game that are often at a very high price. As I've been doing the last several sets, I'm going to give you a buy list video categorizing the different cards if you want to prioritize of which ones you should get first, which ones you should look out for, and maybe which ones you should not bother getting. As always, if you want to check out the Google Sheet that I have with all the different sets that I've done, you can click the link in the description below. That'll take you to there. It is public to view at all times, so you can reference it for later, even after you watch the video.
You're gonna watch the whole video, right?
Anyways, while you're doing that, let's hear from word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Garden. Look, I've been talking about the new King of Hearts and Cotton Candy playmats for a while now, and pre-orders are still available, releasing later this month. They're also running a special deal. You can buy any playmat. It could be one of these, it could be any of these, and you can get the Yokai playmat for just $15, a huge discount. But I'm also a huge fan of Garden's designs outside of playmats, like this t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, as well as a variety of other products if you don't want to get a playmat, like stickers, pins, desk mats. Make sure to click the link in the description below and use my code at checkout, Atrocious. It helps the channel a ton and it helps support one of my favorite people in the community. Thank you, Garden, for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to the video. I'm going to have these cards in two different sections. The new cards, because PRB02 does have several unique cards within the set, and the old cards. We'll start out with the old cards first. Starting in tier 1, these are the cards that I would go for priority wise. So kicking it off, we have Kaya. Kaya, just a really nice draw 2 trash 2, has been a really good utility blue card, especially on the support side for a variety of decks. Reiju, UP Sanji, even when Nami was running around, it was pretty good. Jewelry Bunny, a great supernova searcher, whether you're running something like Trafalgar Law in the green yellow side, or more probable, Bonnie. If you've been playing Rayleigh lately, you'll love seeing Buggy getting a new reprint on here, being able to not only be really good in the Zoro matchup, but on top of that, be able to find one of your events. Shirahoshi, a really nice 2-drop blocker, is good for a lot of different yellow decks because it forces your opponent to swing through you, right? They can't remove it off the field unless they want to give you more life. One of my favorite cards, Rosinante, is so good in different green decks, being able to prevent rested characters from being KO'd by KOing himself, even if he's active, rested, sideways. This is a really cool card. I love this one. Brook hasn't really seen play up until it's come back in the Silver's Rayleigh deck, or maybe the starter deck 21 deck actually that topped in one of the regionals. Gotta maybe check that out in a video or something. Being able to give 2 rested dawns to a leader character has really good synergy with the 4-drop Luffy in the Rayleigh deck. Teach is another 2-drop that I'm really high on. Not only is it just a good card for a variety of decks, right? Not just blue Doflamingo, but also blue yellow Nami. But with OP 14-7 Warlords of the Sea coming soon, we don't know the leaders exactly at this point, but I have a good feeling that maybe one of the leaders is going to like this card. I have pretty high hopes on this card for OP 14. Sanji is one that really sees a rise. If you saw my Market Watch video just the other day, Sanji is really utilized in a lot of different red decks to be able to give one of their Straw Hat Crew characters unblockable to go for a super aggressive endgame. Whether you're playing Red-Green Smoker or Red-Green Luffy, this is a pretty solid 2K. Black Maria, the old card that broke Red-Purple Law way back in the day in OP08, is not played nearly as much as it is now, but this character is just so good in my opinion. That activate main is just so valuable in a lot of situations, especially because it's a block 2 going to survive rotation. I just want this in my back pocket because when a purple leader that is going to abuse this card comes back, it's going to be really good. Usohachi, one of the best purple 2Ks that we have in the game right now, especially because Straw Hat Crew leaders are so prevalent, finally getting a reprint and is skyrocketing down in price. Thank goodness. I hated like seeing people pay like $15 per copy of this card, this common card from a starter deck. This is one of the best endgame cards for purple Straw Hat Crew decks like green purple Luffy and also blue purple Luffy. Being able to rest 5 cost or less is most blockers within the meta. X-Drake, a great card in just yellow decks in general, especially as a utility 2K, is a little bit specialized within the Supernova packages, right? Being able to find it pretty easily, but you'll see other decks like a Nell and stuff run this card. That activate main resting the character to get a 4 cost or less has seen a lot of value in the past. Brook, a very good card for black decks, may be a little bit more on the decline, especially with Emu incoming, but if you're going to run a black deck not named Emu, Brook is a heavy consideration that you can have with that on play and when attacking of minusing 1 to a character and KOing a 0. Tashigi, one of the better green 2Ks, is a great utility card for protection effects on your other green characters if you're playing something like Bonnie. Hina still sees spurts here and there within the One Piece trading card game. I've shown you some lists that actually play this Hina in the last couple weeks, especially with the synergy of 4-drop Rebecca, which is, by the way, the next card, is a really easy way to be able to get that huge minusing effect on that Hina on the board consistently to be able to synergize well with different KO effects like the Brook that I mentioned. Now, we've seen this guy generically around purple decks. Mr. 2 Bond Clay, just being able to ramp a Dawn as active is so nice on turn 2 of the game going second, but also getting that power of when attacking to copy another body on the field can be so good, especially in the late game if you see this guy attack. Charlotte Pudding, just an incredible card. There is literally nothing like this card in the game. Most blue decks just play this card because sometimes resetting your opponent's hand is all you need to win, as they've been setting it up all game. You just reset it entirely into their 20-some card deck. Oh, instead of Gum Gum Giant, 2K, whatever, now you have a random 1K, a brick. Maybe a 2-drop event when you only have 1 Dawn up. Tony Chopper, this blocker mostly being utilized within Red Green Smoker, especially in PRB02 format, it sees a surge with some of the other cards that we'll talk about later in this video. Definitely a really good rare in my opinion, and especially in block 3 being Red Straw Hat. You could definitely see this card in the future see some play as we start getting through rotations. I would not only get this for Red Green Smoker and PRB02, but for the future of the game in general. Frankie's a really nice Egghead and Straw Hat Crew type character. If you want to rock out some Vegapunk, especially with the OP13 upgrades, or really just a lot of different yellow decks running this 2K, being able to draw the card and also play it to have a body on field to threaten lethal or pressure on your opponent's side provides a lot of value in a lot of situations. Burgess, a great card for the Blackbeard deck. Even though a lot of Blackbeards have been dropping their counts of Burgess, you might not need a play set anymore, but this is still a great card to have, especially because the meta might shift to where Burgess becomes more valuable and gets more slots in the deck. This Trafalgar Law promo, man, I am so glad that we finally got this card. A huge boost for Supernova yellow decks, which there are a couple running around. It's not only really nice because you have a searchable 2K in the deck, but on top of that, with that trigger, you're able to potentially play the card, which has a ton of value in situations like I mentioned for Frankie. As I correctly predicted, a lot of Bonnie's back on Eroge in OP12 and beyond is just a nice card, right? Especially on the even, you can play on curve while also getting your Dawn up, and the end of turn is setting the Dawn as active happens pretty much every single turn that he's on the field, or consistently getting your leader effect off. Carrot, just a really good SR in terms of green decks. Being able to on play and when attacking freeze a 7 cost or less is really nice to be able to play on curve for a deck that's maybe ramping and a little bit ahead of you with bigger bodies and faster momentum to really halt them and say, okay, this guy's going to be frozen. Cavendish, one of the most expensive SRs that I've seen in a while in both PRB02 and the Learn Together decks. This guy's being reprinted and is so good. If you play a Supernova deck, you have to play this card. Just being able to restand the 2 Dawn is so valuable in so many situations. and I don't really see this card going anywhere really at all. Luffy may not have the value of Cavendish, but still is really good in my opinion, whether you're playing a Black Hill Luffy deck with the PRB02 upgrades, or you're waiting for Vegapunk in OP13. Especially with that Vegapunk being able to use that effect pretty much immediately to remove your opponent's side of the board, that's pretty alright. Sabo, one of the best 5-drop blockers that we have in the game, right? Being able to not only have that hand filter on the draw 2, trash 2, but a protection effect for the entire opponent's turn on your side of the field was so good for a long time, and now is a little bit more of a tech card, but still a very effective one at that. Sanji for those purple Straw Hat Crew decks, another really good utility 2K, and especially with something like maybe GP Luffy, where you can go around and float around like the 8 Dawn area. You can go ahead play this guy for 3. We talked about how the Uta in the Shanks starter deck is seeing a lot of play because of its synergy with the 8 cost event and Red Blue Ace. And this Sanji kind of has the same effect. It's, I think, the first card to be able to do this, at least that was super playable. Now Luffy, this secret rare Rush Luffy is very nice within a couple different purple decks, specifically green purple Luffy, and especially because I don't see Luffy decks going anywhere anytime soon, especially on the purple side. This guy's a really good way to try to go for game, right? Having multiple attacks that you can utilize. Edward Newgate, this is probably on the lower end of priority inside the tier 1 category, but I still wanted to include it because I love this card. Just being able on play to give a Dawn to your leader can help with so many different leader effects like Red Blue Marco, but also just with that activate main KOing a 5,000 power or less. 5,000 is a pretty good number, so especially in combination with different power minusing effects, that 5,000 might not be all that hard to hit. Silver's Rayleigh, another card that does really good on the minus effects. It gives that minus 3,000 power and minus 2,000 power with a KO effect on top of it, but that power lasts within your opponent's turn. You don't need a Roger Pirates deck to be able to utilize this card. We've seen that time and time again with Shanks and Marco, and I feel like it's only a matter of time before another deck wants to go ahead and abuse this secret rare. Eustace Captain Kidd is slowly becoming more of a just generically good yellow boss monster, right? Being able to trash one of your opponent's life, just so nice within the end game, and then that filter effect as well, doing that draw 1 trash 1 can just be so valuable in a lot of different situations, whether or not he's searchable within your archetype. Dragon, a pretty good rush card, right? Not only for a lot of just different red decks in general, but Red Black Sabo coming in OP13 loves playing this guy, right? He's a searchable body within the deck and also just really ramps on the aggression. Don't mind if I do. Just a couple more boss monsters within this tier 1 category. We've got Zoro. This 9 cost just really good within Red Green Smoker and Red Green Luffy, specifically being searchable in the Red Green Luffy deck because it's a Straw Hat Crew engine, and being able to manipulate the amount of Dawn that you can utilize is just so nice to be able to get this guy online and swing in big numbers, especially in the end game. Sanji, a really nice secret rare as well. Definitely mostly utilized within blue purple Luffy. Is going to be a little bit easier for players to find, to build those decks and maybe build in more in the future. Because man, especially if you can manipulate the top of your deck, that effect playing a 9 cost or less other than Sanji is so good. We've seen it in blue purple Luffy how good it can be. Now if you're a green player, Shanks is a really nice one, right? Just being able to KO any rested character on the field. We've seen cards like Stuffy get a big boost in OP13 in playability, and Shanks is kind of green's version of Stussy. Just the stipulation, instead of KOing one of your own characters, is that the character that you want to KO has to be rested. Marshall D. Teach, even though very specific in the OP09 Black Marshall D. Teach deck, and is also, like Burgess, seeing less copies nowadays than it used to, is still a very great card. Like, I'm shocked that this card has always been like a sub $2 card, especially when Teach was really on its heyday. The 10 cost Shanks is getting a lot more rounds now, especially in the Goldie Roger deck, so you might want to grab a couple copies of these if you can, if you want to go ahead and build Roger, because just getting that 10 cost rush, 12,000 power, but on top of that, minus 1,000 on everything in the board can really lead to some scary game plans for your opponent. Now going into the events, we have Bad Manners Kick Course. Just like all the 0 cost events, right? Trash 1 card in your hand, plus 3,000 power. Pretty good. Another 0 cost event, this one being green. This one a little bit more prevalent because green is playing a lot of bricks and it's hard to get rid of them sometimes. So this event is always really nice to use. Gum Gum Jet Gatling, the purple event, right, is very utilized right now in different purple Straw Hat Crew decks, being able to be searchable and also synergize well, because sometimes you have a lot of bricks as well. Now, the final one that we'll talk about in the tier 1 category, the yellow event. This one just being so nice because if you get that as your last life, oh man, you don't even care about getting the 3,000 counter. You are gaining an extra life right there. Kind of the last one, especially with decks like Katakuri, right, that can easily put this to the bottom, or maybe even something like a Nell to where you can heal 2 life at one time instead of 1 off the leader effect. Just a really good card for yellow. One of the best 0 cost events in my opinion. Now, Gum Gum Giant is no stranger to broken bonkers events. As long as purple Straw Hat Crew cards and decks are utilized, Gum Gum Giant will also be there. Just being able to draw 2 cards and get 4,000 power can oftentimes win you the game, especially if you can chain these. My Era Begins, just a 1 cost searcher event in Blackbeard. Again, they run several copies of this. Black Vortex, this is a card that we've seen more and more in just various black decks in general. Really good in the Zoro matchup, right? Being able to negate the leader effect. Black Hole also pretty good. It gets spots in the Blackbeard deck. Being able to remove a 4 cost, even if it has a protection on it, or is a card with protection. Finger Pistol, this card used to be the bee's knees, and everybody was trying to get this card. It was like a $20 card at one point. Glad it's getting a reprint. Just really good removal and trash building within the deck. But black decks in the future may just generically want this, even if they're not a CP engine. We've got Godthread now. You know all about Godthread if you've been playing against or playing blue-purple Luffy, right? Just being able to KO a 5 cost or less on your curve. Just so nice. And get a Dawn as active. Delicious. Gravity Blade Raging Tiger, right? Just being able to bottom deck 2 characters with a cost of 6 or less can make or break a game sometimes. Definitely want to be getting this. Oh, I'm sorry. That was the final event. Mary Goyce, a stage. I forgot there were stages that I need to go through. It's like 11:30 at night for me. I'm recording this. Really good in the Emu deck, right? One of the different events that you play within the Emu deck, and honestly, I think it's a staple in there. You definitely want to make sure that you have at least one of these. And now the final card in Tier 1, Rev Army HQ, right? Especially when you talk about Red Black Sabo coming into the meta. You want to play this card to have that consistency in your deck to build up your trash ride for your future dragon effects and be able to find the pieces of your puzzle. All right, now going into the Tier 2 category. The Tier 2 category are definitely good cards that I would want to have, but they're either through like niche kind of more rogue decks only, or they're just not really being seen in the old Tier 1 decks that they used to be in. But still, definitely options that you want in your back pocket, like Scratchman of Pooh. Scratchman of Pooh is not mandatory in Bonnie decks, but is still a very nice one, and even with Supernovas as well, like Green Yellow Law, maybe you want to slide these in. Again, with my theory on 7 Warlords of the Sea, and we'll talk about, I'll probably mention that for every 7 Warlords of the Sea card that I think of. I would be looking at the different 7 Warlords of the Sea cards, especially that were revolved around Doflamingo, because I don't know, it could be a big boost to that guy, especially utilizing some of these cards. A turn 1 2k to be able to restack your top 3, that's not bad. Mr. 3 as well being a searcher for either cross skill Guild or Baroque works gives it some variety, and maybe, I don't know, we can see some 7 Warlords of the Sea, Cross Guild, or Baroque works mesh typing. So just a thought to have a searcher. I like searchers if you watch the channel for a while. Also searcher Trafalgar Law. Now, with a card that we'll talk about later in this video coming in PRB02 in its first appearance, a couple decks have kind of pushed out Trafalgar Law from their archetypes. But Trafalgar Law being able to find Straw Hat Crew cards, even though he's not Straw Hat Crew, can still be a really good option for some deck building, even if you maybe just want to transition into something like Heart Pirates. Nojiko, a good 2-cost, right? Primarily in blue-yellow Nami nowadays. It's just really good removal potential, right? A 2-cost bouncing back a 5-cost or less. There's a reason why this common card, or this uncommon, I'm sorry, was like $4. Now let's talk about the 3 boys, Luffy, Ace, and Sabo. All good within their own right, and especially with a little bit of excitement in PRB02 Black Yellow Luffy, you'll want to slide these guys in, and you never know. There's always some old rogue Luffy, Ace, or Sabo. I played the Sabo deck that wanted those, that utilize these cards, especially when half yellow. We know that an Egghead yellow Luffy card is going to be coming in the future, so what if you could get your Luffy Goa Kingdom guy into maybe like a new card, a new 5-drop within that Egghead deck, or maybe even the Luffy that I was talking about earlier that's a 5-drop. You could evolve into that. There's some interesting potential in these guys. Emporio Ivankov, right, mostly utilized within Bello Betty decks. If there's ever like another leader that can just make that Ivankov 7,000 power very easily to be able to cheat out another character on field, can actually be so nice. Gion, I'm seeing this more and more in the Kuzan decks if you're looking to play blue Kuzan. Just a really nice 2K, right? Especially on your opponent's defensive side, utilizing a event, Gum Gum Giant. You really force them to put away a card on top of that if they want to do that. Laboon used to have a heyday in a lot of different black decks, but has kind of fallen a little bit back down based on the meta, but still a very good card, right? A 4-cost character minusing 4. You do have to rest him, but that's a small price to pay when you're removing bodies left and right. Trafalgar Law as part of the 7 Warlords of the Sea. In my opinion, what really broke Doflamingo with the removal potential really just forced players to not play 4-drops within the game at the time of its heyday. Since we're getting 7 Warlords of the Sea cards soon, I imagine that this Trafalgar Law is going to be in people's back pockets to be able to utilize, especially because it was starter deck locked. Gadatsu, we're seeing a little bit more pushed into different yellow decks, being able to just, in the stages of the game, if your opponent's not giving up life or you're really just trying to control a little bit more on board, you can KO one of the characters equal to the life, especially if you're giving your opponent life. Gadatsu just gets more and more value. Bonnie, I really like, right? Being able to stun an opponent's Dawn or character could just be so good of knocking them off a turn for curve or maybe stalling out the game plan a little bit. Sangoro, really nice card in purple Luffy, right? Being able to draw. Pretty simple. Now, the Mihawk and Crocodile, I have that combination in there once again because 7 Warlords of the Sea is coming. A blocker being able to on play, draw 2, trash 1, and then this guy right here being able to play a 5-cost Baroque works from your hand. They seem pretty okay, and I don't know. Especially because this guy has counter on it too. I'm like, seems all right. Sanji's really nice for purple straw hat crew techs. A little bit more of a tech card now, but being able to rest a 6-cost or less and get rush for a 7,000 power swing can't be that bad to have. Heroes, we're seeing more in blue purple Luffy after these last couple weekends and Bandai Card Fest. Just being able to return a 5-cost or less into your opponent's hand can be very nice, and having a 9,000 power Bonnie on the field is so good. It's almost like it's just a better vanilla. Trafalgar Law, good for the partially yellow Supernova decks, being able to heal a little bit while also giving a Dawn on leader for potential leader effects, and being a 7-9 guy on the field like Kiros just really, really good. And Ace I've got in here as the last character card in the tier 2 category. Being able to gain a life and then be a 10,000 power rush character is so good in a lot of different decks, even though Anels are dropping these by a couple copies, which is why it's in the tier 2 category. It's still a secret rare. You'll want to get your secret rares, especially when it talks about PRB02. I remember when the 10-drop Kuzan was reprinted in PRB02 and it was like under $1, but then after it became playable again in Rob Lucci because UP Luffy existed, it became over $5 for a secret rare. It increased by like 200%. All I'm saying is when these guys go down, these secret rares, you take the opportunity. Now, Slave Arrow I've got in the tier 2 category. This might be a little bit weird because it's really only in like blue, yellow Nami. But again, with 7 Warlords of the Sea and being able to gain 4,000 power for just 1 Dawn and returning a cost 2 or more in the hand can be nice as we start to see like 2-cost searchers or just 2-cost bodies that are more support characters that you want to put back. 3 Brothers Bond, similar to the 3 brothers that I was talking about, the Luffy, Ace, and Sabo 2-cost. This guy is kind of in that same category. And similar to Kyros, we saw White Snake be present within blue-purple Luffy decks the last couple weeks in the final stages of OP12. It is definitely a great card within like the Rayleigh matchup, right? It's not just a Nami card that is being played. It's starting to be expanded a little bit more as some of these blue decks are starting to find a rhythm and really understanding a little bit of this value. And now for the reprints, we've got the tier 3 cards. These are the cards that I would say are the lowest on the totem pole, but they're still good cards and I would still eventually get them, but I'm not making any haste towards them. The first one that I've got is Koala. For the most part was locked in event exclusives, is now going to be much more viable to get, and especially with Rev armies and a red-black Sabo leader that has a Dawn ×1 ability. Who knows, maybe more people play. I don't think too many people play this card right now because I think your 1-drops are more consisted of like searchers and stuff like that, but you could see this Koala card be very nice for your deck. It's just an option that I'd have available. Now Uta, just a nice searcher. I mean, Shanks is very much on the decline because blue-purple Luffy did not die with the ban list and the pair bans, but Uta, still a nice card for that deck. Ideo, so chum blockers are definitely a little bit more on the up, I feel like, as of late, and so Ideo could just be a nice 2-drop one that some people want to utilize, and if Dressrosa ever really makes a comeback, right, with Usopp, he's not that bad of a chum blocker. You got Lime Juice, right, especially for Shanks decks, be able to say that a 4,000 power blocker cannot announce blocker is just a really good one for chum blockers, which are prevalent. Pudding, this is more for like the purple Katakuri deck or maybe the purple yellow Pudding. When you put a Dawn back, being able to ramp it back is just so nice. This card was also part of what broke Red Purple Law in OP08, fun fact. Oh, Nami, we're starting to see this a little bit in purple Luffy decks once again, right? Especially in the later stages of the game, being able to filter your hand, draw 2 cards is so nice in so many situations and is a respectable chum blocker. Basil Hawkins with that on KO effect, a sticky body that forces your opponent to play some sort of removal of bottom decking or putting back into hand, especially with the yellow kid decks that force this to become a blocker. Crocodile for my tinfoil hat theory of 7 Warlords of the Sea. Just a decent 2K to find. Dracul Mihawk, right? Not necessarily a 2K, but as part of the Cross Guild. This was, I believe, like a pre-release promo or something like that, and if you were like me and you didn't play in any pre-releases, you actually don't own any of this card. Frankie, also similar to Onami, having that filter effect, being able to draw 2 cards can be really nice to declunk your hand, find an extra bit of counter, or maybe the next piece of the puzzle that you were looking for, is definitely a respectable blocker. Sabo, a nice card that was also kind of restricted a little bit in its release, becoming much more readily available, especially for the Bello Betty or different yellow Rev Army decks. Bonnie, this is a decent promo that you can consider with something like Green Yellow Law, being able to have a little bit of removal on your opponent's side, right? Especially in something like the Rayleigh matchup or something something of the sort. Momonosuke, a card that we almost exclusively see in Yamato, I feel like. Yamato is still a fine deck to play, and many of the decks that I see of Yamato still play this card. So if you want to try out Yamato, you're definitely going to need these. Now, Crocodile with the both Cross Guild and former Baroque Works tag can be really interesting, especially when we get to OP14 if there is a Cross Guild type or Baroque Works 7 Warlords of the Sea type of leader in the future. Because this was also, I think this was also a pre-release promo. Basil Hawkins used to be the bee's knees in the Bonnie deck, but has since been powered out. There are just better cards to play, but especially with that protection effect that he has, who knows, maybe this 6-drop blocker in the Supernovas deck could see value in the future. Ben Beckman, I have this in the tier 3 category because it's a good card and I really like being able to trash a character instead of KO a character, right? Gets around a lot of protection effects that are in the game right now. But man, because of the new cards that we're going to talk about here in the next couple minutes, not even Red Green Smoker plays this card anymore. Sabo, one of the last secret rares that I'm going to talk about in this video. This ACOS right here is Rev Army and is able to KO a couple different characters, so can be utilized especially in Red Black Sabo if you're really worried about something like the Rayleigh matchup, right, where they're only playing 4 costs and below. You just might want to have 1 or 2 on you. 10 cost Shanks, this was played much more in the Shanks deck, but now that Shanks is definitely on the decline, I'm not sure this has too much of a home, but being able to KO a 10,000 power character on play, although it doesn't have rush or anything like that, is still a very good card. Can remove most cards in the game currently. Now I've got a 0 cost event, Gum Rain, in the tier 3 category, and you might think it's weird, but it's really just because the purple event is much better and like the green event is something that a lot of people will gravitate to. You really only utilize Gum Rain if you're like a blue purple deck, but you don't really care about the second typing, you only care about the Straw Hat Crew typing, and maybe you don't have the purple card, so you get the blue card instead, like in Blue Purple Sanji. 6 King Pistol, probably one of the most underutilized 0 cost events that we've got in the game right now. Black just really doesn't use it. There was a time that Rob Lucci was playing this, and maybe in the future you'll see more of the black decks play this for some extra counter, but just really doesn't have a home. He possesses the world's most brilliant mind. I think some Vegapunks play this in OP13. I don't know if they all do, but it's just a nice 1-drop searcher. Oh, Come My Way. I love this card, especially with the Robin that's coming out, right? That new SR in EB03, I think it is. This card has to be good, right? Being able to redirect an attack into that Robin to be able to win the game potentially or deal some damage, and maybe we get 7 Warlords of the Sea type cards that could potentially have Baroque Works stuff with it, right? Because Crocodile is a Baroque Works guy, but he's also a 7 Warlords of the Sea guy. I don't know, that's my copium. I love this card. I think this card is so cool. I think it's so funny as well. Amino Murakuma Sword is a nice 2 cost event that was utilized a lot in Sakazuki. Not necessarily played too much in today's Sakazuki because the direction of the deck has changed, but being able to bottom deck potentially 2 different cards on your opponent's side is just so nice. Gamma Knife, a really nice card to be able to battle against some different characters. For 2 Dawn and a Dawn -1, you could minus 5,000 power on a character. That is so much power. It is single-handedly a card that can deal with something like 8 cost Kid. Gum Lightning, I've also got it in here. I've seen this in stuff like Reiju and things like that, and who knows, maybe some other decks in the future will want to play it, but being able to get rid of a 6,000 power or less can be really, really good, especially in the early game. Slow Soul Beam, I saw this get a nice top at Chile Regionals with the purple Katakuri. I got tagged in on Twitter. I'm sorry, it's past midnight now, my time. I am tired. But being able to play this card and also rest any one of your opponent's characters, does not have any restriction at all, can be such a cool interaction, right? Especially if your opponent is going to have multiple swings coming at you. Last couple cards before we go into the new stuff in PRB02, It's to Die For. We saw this in Blue Purple Luffy have some spurts, especially in the beginning of the game. I think as of right now, decks are transitioning away from this card, but if they come back to it, you'll want to make sure that you get it. Did someone say Kami? I remember just seeing a super hyper aggro Enel deck play this card in the Japan Championships back in like, what was it? Maybe it was the EBO1 format, especially with rumors that future sets are going to be Sky Island theme. We might get a nice Enel of a cost of 7 or less that we can utilize alongside this card, especially for a deck like Enel where you just balance between one life anyways, so that other condition, right, trash the top of your life until you have one, not really mattering. And the final card on tier 3 in the reprint category, I've got Kurita Coliseum, right? Just being able to give characters the ability to attack on the turn that they're played can be so good, right? Like the pseudo rush effect. So I think that this card is nice to have in the back pocket, whether it's like Rebecca, whether it's Usopp, whether that's Sabo. It's just nice. And now we're going to be talking about the new cards that are in PRB02. I'm going to recategorize them in the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 categories, and trust me, this will be a lot quicker than the other ones. I've had to make this video quick, not only because it's super late for me, but because if I spend time on every single card and spend lots of time talking about every single card, this video would be like 3 hours long. The first tier 1 card I'll talk about is Trafalgar Law, right? You may have seen it in the PRB02 decks that I showcased you, but being able to have that protection effect on you, but also minus 2,000 power on one of your opponent's characters on that attack can really lead to some really cool trades. As well, with the various different typings that you have on this character, have a lot of utilization to be found very easily in something like Red-Green Smoker. More decks than just Red-Green Smoker will utilize this card, but it's definitely one of the key points in why Red-Green Smoker is such a good card within the format, or is such a good deck within the format. It uses good cards. God, I'm so tired. We've got Zoro now. This is one of the premier 2Ks, right? Green Straw Hat Crew or Supernova type decks love this card. Not only is just a nice 2K with slash, so searchable on plenty of different options, but on top of that, with that opponent's turn, being able to have a protection effect of being rested really is kind of like a counter to Dead Man's Game or Hody Jones or something of the sort. Uso Hachi, right, is a counter to all those to have a dependable blocker. Now, I've got Jinbei in the tier 1 category, and you may remember when we first saw the PRB02 cards and when they first released in Japan, and I was like, I don't know about this card. But with 7 Warlords of the Sea coming in a brand new set, and also Doflamingo just generally using this as a staple, yeah, this is a tier 1 card. I generally put searchers in the tier 1 category, and so this fits the bill, is a staple within an archetype, and has lots of potential within the future. So yeah, get a playset of these rares. Marco is debatably the best card to come in PRB02, and if you've been around One Piece TCG YouTube, this probably isn't a surprise to you. Just being able to be a 4/6 blocker is a respectable stat line in general, especially going second, and that on KO effect of drawing 2 cards really forces your opponent to think twice on whether or not they want to swing at you to activate that draw 2. Mr. 3 is also a pretty good blocker that we're getting in PRB02 that's being utilized in more than just buggy decks. Not necessarily having a protection effect, but if it were to be rested to draw 2 cards instead, it's just really nice to get value and not just have a chum blocker on the field. Like, he's a chum blocker, but he has the potential to draw more counter in his hand to be able to get out of swings. Pudding I've also got as a tier 1 card. This Pudding is just so good in the decks that it is played in, right? There's multiple Big Mom Pirates purple decks, and they all love this card. Being able to cheat out the 8 cost Katakuri a turn earlier, and by the way, draw cards. Like, you don't even have to have the character that you want to play off of the Pudding in your hand at the time that you play it, because you draw 2 cards, and oh, if you draw it off of those 2 cards, just slam that big guy down. Nami, a great card for purple, an instant add for green purple Luffy, and probably more down the line Just a really nice unconditional look at the top 5 for a Straw Hat Crew. That's it. That's all. Pretty simple. And a trigger to play the card as well. Now, this Sabo being utilized in a couple different black decks, right? Especially because black is very good at building up the trash. You could potentially play this guy down for just a cost of 3, cheating him out similar to the Sanji blocker. And also has really cool synergy with the 4-cost Rebecca, to where you can grab him, right, because he's a cost of 3 to 7, but you can play him down because he only costs 3 in your hand, especially if you have 15 or more cards in trash. This card's really, really cool. Now, moving along into the tier 2, we've got Kobe. Now, I've got Kobe in the tier 2. I was pretty high on Kobe, especially in Red Green Smoker, but he's not a requirement in there, and he's also kind of decent in like the Navy sword packages of Kobe, but he's not as important as something like Trafalgar Law. So unless Kobe starts seeing a little bit more airtime, I don't know, I just don't see it for him. But just a great card in general, right? With that, when attacking, be able to draw a card off of that, and on your opponent's turn, gain that extra power, which in Smoker is so nice, being a 4-cost 7,000 power on the defensive side. Lucky Roo for the Shanks deck might actually see a little bit of play not in Shanks, right? Because with that on play of trashing a character with the power of 6,000 more from your hand to draw 2 cards, that has no like type restriction. You don't have to be a red-haired pirate leader. You don't have to be a Shanks leader or just a red deck. I mean, you have to be a red deck because you need to play this card, but like, you see what I mean, right? Like, even though Shanks is not overly viable right now, there's a lot of potential for this card in the future. Bonnie, also a pretty good card. We're starting to see this a little bit more, I feel like, in Jewelry Bonnie decks, being able on the odd curve to get that Dawn as active and utilize leader effect could just be really good if this Bonnie sticks around for a long time within the game to constantly be resetting one Dawn. Skipping all the way to black, we've got Gecko Moria, right? I talked about this card and how cool this card is in Thriller Bark Pirates types. It's just a great card to have, right? It's a step closer to what some of those decks needed to when they lost the 8-drop Gecko, unfortunately. Especially being able to recur a Dawn on top of that and potentially swing 6 into some 6,000 power leaders that we've got in format really gives some of those Thriller Bark Pirate type leaders a shot, in my opinion. Especially because maybe the Thriller Bark 7 Warlords of the Sea Gecko Moria gets a leader that is partially black in OP14. Oh, that could be cool. Again, with the tinfoil hat theory. We've got Shiryu as well. This is a placement in the Blackbeard Pirates deck. I think it's more of a tech card within the Blackbeard deck. Some people play it, some people don't. I like this card. I think it's cool being able to be a blocker and an 8-cost, especially with the blocker effect. Being able to KO a 4-cost or less character is good in a couple different matchups. In the last one of the tier 2 category, we've got Ace, the big scream of Black Yellow Luffy, and why it is somewhat back on the radar, right? Being able to play a 2-drop Sabo, Ace, and Luffy with cost of 2 from your trash or hand is literally built for stuff like Black Yellow Luffy, right? It's built on those 2 drops that I was mentioning earlier in the video. Like, you can't get more clear cut than that. And going over the few tier 3 cards that we've got in here, I've got this Luffy. I like this Luffy. I want to try it out in my green purple Luffy decks. I don't know if it's worth it, but being able to halt your opponent's Dawn, right, especially at the start of their turn, is just so nice to be able to utilize in the early game to really stop their ebb and flow, especially on curve later in the game. Doflamingo, I've seen this in something like blue-purple Luffy, right? On 5, you can get a blocker on the field and ramp a Dawn as arrested, and maybe also if you're playing the Rosinante and Don Quixote Pirates package with the 8-drop Doflamingo, you get a 5-drop that doesn't have to be Rosinante that you can play out onto the field. Gives a little bit more flexibility within that build. Going over the yellow cards, Otama. This could be a nice card, right, to be able to give that extra power, right? For 2 Dawn, you can actually give 3,000 power. You just got to be able to make sure that you can take a life. And if you're doing it, you're not going to lose the game. Boa Hancock, whether you're playing Arlong or Purple Yellow Robin, this Boa Hancock is really neat, right? Being able to freeze a rested leader or character that's not Monkey D. Luffy, or at least say that it cannot attack, can be so valuable. I'm currently playing the blue-green Zoro Sanji deck right now, and that 4-cost Arlong from OP06 that says a leader cannot attack. That is so valuable in a lot of situations, and so this Boa Hancock provides that same kind of value that you can utilize, so definitely want to see it in a couple different decks. And that's going to be all. Thank you so much for watching this video. I tried to go a little bit fast because, as I mentioned, this is a premium collection. This is a reprint set of the best cards in the One Piece trading card game. So obviously they're all good. Again, be financially responsible, right? You don't have to get all these cards right away. That's why I've kind of prioritized them in that Excel sheet in the description below, free to be able to utilize on what I think you should get. And obviously, right, if you're geared towards building red-green smoker, just get the red-green smoker cards. You don't have to get anything else, regardless of whether the red-green smoker cards are in tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. Thank you so much for watching. It's like 12:30. I gotta go to bed. I'll see you later.